Hey, it's Kellen.
Tyson here, and not, of course, no AL today, but we do have someone special, Kel. Who is it?
Today we have the Minister of Wellness, Nathaniel Jordan, in the house.
This is Diversified Game.
A podcast giving entrepreneurial advice from a diverse and inclusive perspective with Kellen.
He may agree, he may oppose, and it's more than just race, it's about, ideas.
Tyson.
When you're going against the odds, you've got to be creative, you've got to innovate, you've got to stand out.
And AL.
Focus more on execution and application and less on excuses.
So, let the game begin.
And so, welcome, Nathaniel, to the show. And let me just give it a breakdown. If you guys don't know Nathaniel Jordan, you can Google his name and type in Nathaniel Jordan and fried chicken right now. And he's gone viral because he is making content out there on YouTube talking about what not to eat. I'm going to let him tell his story, and we're going to go into the rest of the day because he probably might mess up your week, if not your life, if you listen. So tell us your story real quick, Nathaniel. I know it, but for the folks who don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be here. And so my story, I grew up here. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I was raised by what's unfortunately becoming extinct these days. My father was very, very strong, married to my mother for 40 years, 7 of us together. He was a very religious, very, very conservative, hardworking man. And unfortunately, like too many, he was a pastor. And like too many, he ate a pastor's diet, which was, and that's how we were raised, eating very poorly. So I suffered, especially looking back now, I suffered a terrible cost, especially with my self-esteem, because I had very bad skin. I had crocodile skin when I hit puberty, and that definitely affected me psychologically going through that. So just like any real old fashioned strong father, he pretty much kicked me out the house when I was 18 and I joined the Marines. When I was on the Marine, I was a boxer at around 165. Then I got out of the Marines and went right into the police department here in St. Louis. And I went from by the time I joined the police department, I had ballooned up to 220. And then a couple years later, I was 260, 30% body fat, which is obese. That's an obese body fat percentage. If you're a man and your body fat is over 30%, that's obese. Right. And and my pants were getting bigger and bigger. I topped out at having to have 45-inch pants. Now, what was interesting was my blood pressure became high. And by that time, I had already lost an uncle from heart attack. Another uncle, this is my father's side of the family, had already been debilitated with strokes. Another uncle had dropped dead from heart disease. And then my grandparents, even though they made it to in their 80s, they still suffered for many years from debilitating diseases. And when I came on the police department, my father, he was working his 42nd and last year as a postal worker. And actually one of the fondest memories that I always have in my life, because remember, this is me growing up watching this man go to work every day. And one day, when I was on police department, one of his very last days, I actually caught him. I had court and I was working the courts as a police officer. He came in hobbling around delivering mail. And that was very interesting. I should have took a picture with him looking back then. But anyway, he started to have strokes, and at the age of 58, from years of high blood pressure and neglecting his diet, and as he started to suffer strokes and my blood pressure got high, I became terrified enough to know I needed to lose weight. So I started boxing again. I started to train, and and despite all the hate that I received on the police department, they watched me transform myself, working 16 hours a day. And I went from 260 and dropped all the way back down to 168. and I actually started to compete again. However, my diet wasn't the level that it should be, so I was still having issues with my heart. And it wasn't until I came across the work of holistic doctors such as Dr. Joel Furman, and I read his book, and that's when I realized that everything that we've been taught about nutrition is a myth and a lie, and it's all based around getting people to eat in a manner to put them on their medications, them toxic poisons. Right. And when I found that out, I went on a strict plant-rich diet. I reversed my conditions. I was unable to help my father. He died at age 66 in 2015 after his 9th stroke. My mother did listen to me and lost 40 pounds. And shortly after my father passed away, and in combination with the fact that I became an absolute fanatic about health, I started to read book after book after book, and I started to health coach people for free. So when I knew that I found my calling in life, that this is what I love to do, and then I left the police department cold turkey, and ever since then, I've been teaching, going around spreading the message about health, and because of the nature in which I present the message, a real straightforward, evangelistic style of speaking about health, I gained a name real quick in St. Louis, and then I end up connecting with a national audience, and it was Rock Newman. Okay. And that's how I connected with him, and that's how I met Phil was okay. Through going out there and health coaching him.
Okay, so I mean that is definitely a mouthful, handful. So I want to say, from one service member to another, thanks for your service, for sure. There, and big respect to the Marines, Air Force myself. But what I do want to kind of put together there is, so you talk about the pastor's diet, right?
Yeah.
And for those who maybe aren't familiar with what that means in our community, let them know a little bit about what your even Sunday dinners looked like with that pastor's diet. Let's explain some of those food items for people.
Well, it's a lot of pork. It revolves around pork. It's heavy in meat, heavy in sugar, sodas, sweet desserts. The pastor's diet, because pastors are very, like my father, very religious, so their lives revolve around a strict adherence to Scripture, and most pastors, they believe that for anybody, just in case anybody's not familiar with the Bible, you have the Old and the New Testament, and so pastors, they believe that under the New Testament, that means that they can literally eat whatever they want, as much as they want. And as long as they pray over the food, that God will miraculously turn a plate of hog maw and sugar. That they really believe that, and it's led to a tremendous amount of suffering and death and heart disease and stroke and obesity among pastors. And then, of course, they teach that to their congregation, and that's why you have half of the church on the sick and shut-in list, and no one. They don't want to make that connection between what they're eating. They're constantly looking for this miracle, when the miracle is the fact that, check this out, men who ate the American Heart Association, even they say that if you eat a half a cup of beans every day, it will reduce your risk of heart disease by 82%. Right. To me, that's a miracle. That's just a half a cup of beans every day.
Right. So starting to implement some of those healthier habits in a diet. Now, looking at the pastor's diet again, I'll just reference that a little bit here. What is it actually in there, right? We say that it's, sugars, but not all sugar's bad, right? We talk about, there's fats, but not all fats are bad. So like, what specific ingredients or makeup of the food that is actually impacting the health, right?
Yeah, so we're
collard greens, right? But you don't have to have it with like, pig knuckles in it or things like that. Like, so explain some of that stuff is what I want to know. Like, what's the breakdown? Is it trans fats? Is it, you know what I mean? What is it?
And that's a good question. So the diet that I teach, here's how you break it down. we want to focus on the quantity, not the the quality, not the quantity. So you're right. So let's start with sugar, which is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates gets broken down into sugar. So our body needs sugar. However, it needs the right type of sugar. So the bad type of sugar that composes the pastor's diet, that would be refined sugars. You know, your white sugar, your high fructose corn syrup. So again, my father used to drink a 40-ounce soda he used to keep cases of soda packed away in the cabinet, and we get beat if we dared to touch one of his sodas. So you know,
right. You said there was definitely repercussions for us, even though there was repercussions for him. There was some for us too.
Right. So whenever you pull that carbohydrate from the fiber source, that's refined sugar, and refined sugar is a drug. It's a drug that it's going to create psychological addiction. It's going to destroy your mental health. It's going to cause diabetes. It's going to stiffen your blood vessels, leading to heart attack, stroke. Okay, so we want we want a quality source of sugar, which are beans, berries, and other fresh fruits. So again, cakes. My father used to eat cake and ice cream after every meal. Not after one meal, not after two meals, not after three meals. Every meal he had to have his cake, which was full of these different types of refined sugars. And when I say refined sugars, this is controversial, but I'm talking about raw honey and maple syrup too. Okay, wow. That might be a better source, but it's still not the optimal source of sugar. The optimal source of sugar means that your sugar is wrapped tightly in fiber so that it is digested and broken down slowly. And that's very important, so that your pancreas doesn't panic and excrete too much insulin, which causes a side effects that I could go on for about an hour on, just talking about what happens when too much insulin is present.
So now, what are the safe? I mean, you threw out a couple of
Tyson,
staples,
Tyson.
Right? Well, no, I want to know, what are some of the safe alternatives?
No. This is the thing. I'm convinced, because Nathaniel is really hitting a hard nerve.
Right.
I told him, don't talk about candy, don't talk about sugar, because he's talking to a real addict. And he's going to let us know right now, where can I get a safe pound cake, safe red velvet cake, ice cream, which one can I eat? I know where you were going, but don't be nice about it, because my right leg is shaking.
Right.
I just had honey in my tea. I just put honey in my tea.
Say, come on, man, leave me something. No, but like that was really like you're taking out the staples of and I want to say our community, but I believe at large in the U.S. that our access to food is a part of our culture, right? And the fast foods and different things, like being able to get a burger in under a minute, right? And have all the dressings with it. It's like looking at that lifestyle and some of the things that you're connecting. It's like, well, dang, you pulling out the staples of not just the Black community's diet, right? We turn the bad stuff into tasty stuff, but you're taking away some of the staples of like the United States. I want to say food economics. Like you're taking the staples right out of it. So now, how do we get to better, safer, more ideal alternatives? Because I like my Aunt Jemima's on my pancakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I do that? And what's the better alternative for some of the things that you're kind of assassinating for us? Let us know.
You need recipes, and I feel you, brother. I mean, look, when I was 260, man, my wife used to cook me a whole pack of fried chicken. I would eat a whole pack of fried chicken. Okay, so I'm a natural gluttoner, just like my father. My father was a gluttoner. I'm a gluttoner too. I can eat all day, so I feel you, man.
I'm right there.
Let me right. So I'm eating this way because I'm not going to let an industry manipulate me into taking me away from my sons, and my sons suffering from a childhood cancer and so forth. So, but that you have alternatives. That's where the recipes come in. That's why I have books. I have self-published books. That's why I make books available for people that have recipes. Like, let me tell you my dinner when I get done, because before I got on with you guys, I'm actually sitting in the gym in a pile of sweat because I got done with my workout. So I'm going to go and, I'm going to eat my 3-pound salad. But for dinner yesterday, we made some cabbage rolls. We stuffed some cabbage rolls with mushrooms, walnuts, raisins, and some other flavors. It's delicious, and topped it with marinara sauce. And then I had a stew. And then we made cookies. But the cookies are sweetened with dried fruit. It's not sweetened with the refined sugar. So you can, and then let me tell you something, man, when you get rid of the refined sugar, get rid of refined sugar for 2 weeks and sink your teeth into some ripe peach or ripe watermelon. You know, I mean,
it tastes sweeter.
So, right. Exactly. There you go. It tastes infinitely, right. And it can become, so the knowledge is power. The knowledge will influence you to even want to make the changes. And then you find alternatives to where you can have, you can make your own cake from scratch. You can learn how to put some vegetables in it, cocoa powder. There's definitely that. And that's the message. The message is that it's not a trade-off. We have to think about what we're gaining, and what we can gain by changing our diet is some real positive change, because the truth is that all of these conventions and marches and stuff that we do trying to improve the conditions of our communities, it ain't gonna mean nothing if we don't address this diet style that's creating mental illness, epidemic of mental illness. Because let me tell you something, you cannot perform at your most optimal level if you're destroying yourself with this high sugar disease animal product. And no matter how intelligent you are, I guarantee you change your diet, you can operate at a level 100 times more. And I always tell this to very successful brothers such as you all and Brother Phil and so forth. Listen, man, you know, these diseases ain't no joke. You know, brothers our age are dropping out in their 30s and 40s. You don't want to mess with the standard American diet. You don't want to mess with this diet, man, because when you grow up on this stuff like us, we can be one cheeseburger away from ending up in a nursing home for the rest of our lives.
So, I mean, something that, I mean, that message obviously resonates. It's a strong message. And now I want to go a quick personal, because I do love my air fryer. And I know, you know, I've done some vegetables in the air fryer and stuff. They have some things for that. But what is your take on meats in general? You know, your chickens, is it the preparation or is it the meat itself? Like what's your take on, you know, some of the pork stuff, you know, your bacons, or let's even say your beef. Like what's your take on the meat side of things? Because I heard what you stuffed it with, and I did not hear any meat. So I'm just wondering, what does that mean?
Right. Well, when it comes to pork, you know, I'm completely against consuming that. So contrary to the pastor's diet, I absolutely don't agree with that theology. So my belief system propels me to that there are certain animals that are not to be consumed as food, and that definitely includes pork. So pork is out. And the World Health Organization has confirmed that because 2 slices of bacon is just as dangerous for colon, can raise your colon cancer risk by 18%. It's classified just as dangerous as smoking cigarettes. So if you're giving your children bacon, you might as well be giving them cigarettes to smoke. Now
that's wild, because I had a bacon burger, and I'm gonna throw myself on the fire, if you don't mind, because I'm gonna get into some things. Because listen, I like to do food challenges, and so I went to a local restaurant, which is a place that I love. The ladies there is lovely. It's, you know, a local joint, and they make gourmet steamed burgers of just all kinds. The thing is, their candied bacon is notoriously delicious, and so I went for 30 pieces of candied bacon on a double burger, and finished it. I mean, it wasn't even a problem, but I mean, something like that, hearing the two pieces, and I'm guessing they don't even factor in candied bacon, right? But
Right.
if that's what it equates to, then I'm thinking like, dang, like, what did I just do? You know what I mean? And something like that, it kind of hits home because I like I said, I like food challenges. I like to kind of do some extreme things every once in a while. The Big Mac challenge is calling my name, type of thing. So like, let's dive into what is that. Does that mean abstain completely, or does it mean, hey, if you're going to do it for a finite period of time, but then, have your diet be right the rest of the time? And if you're going to do a food challenge, then okay, cool, but don't make it a regular thing. Like, is that like a cheat day? How do we maneuver this and I guess have our cake and eat it too?
Right. Well, you can't. Well, the answer is that it's too dangerous to tell anybody that there's times where you can eat some candy bacon. I mean, I don't ever recommend. I won't ever recommend. Just like I won't recommend somebody take a snort of crack cocaine and then be a functional crack addict. I don't recommend people being functional crack food addicts. We're already working against air pollution, water pollution. Because I saw the picture you posted, brother Kellen, about that soul food can be healthy, and the reason why I didn't comment because I didn't want people getting on my case, because fish is the most dangerous thing you can eat in 2019 because of water pollution.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I recommend that people get rid of their food addiction completely and learn how to love to eat to live, and your taste buds can change, and you can never miss that. I feel you, brother. I used to, when I was 17 years old, every single day I ate a double Whopper with cheese, with bacon and a large Sprite and a supersized fries every day. I'm at a lower weight than I was when I was 17 years old. So I understand, man. I hated vegetables. I never thought that I would be eating this way, but when I opened up that book and I saw people coming from the brink of death by changing their diet, and I realized that we've been manipulated into eating a way to where it is causing the biggest destruction, even socially, upon our communities, but we're ignoring it because of food. Let me tell you something. The higher the rate of diabetes, the higher the rate of crime. But yet there's a summit going on right now by the Urban League where you got a bunch of black folk together talking about how to reduce crime, and they serving donuts at the meeting.
Right.
With donuts, those when refined sugar shuts off serotonin from passing in between neurons. Without serotonin, that makes you infinitely more at a higher risk of committing an act of violence. So this is the type of insanity that we're operating. There's a health fair going on right now where they're saying that they want to get the community healthy, but at the health fair, they're serving junk food. There's a breast cancer support walk that'll be going on in October, but at the breast cancer support walk, they're serving Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is how insane we are over this food. And like he said on Phil's show, it's at 110,000 views, right. And just it's over 3,000 comments now. And just scroll through the comments and see how crazy people are. I tell them to stop eating fried chicken. I make a serious case for it. I lost 100 pounds, and I've kept my weight off for 7 years, and I have people on there just crying and sobbing like 2-year-olds, throwing tantrums, temper tantrums on YouTube.
And I watched it, and I mean, I didn't throw a tantrum. I was like, all right. I mean, I get it. Like you definitely aren't lying. You get what I'm saying? So you have to be cognizant and conscious enough to separate truth from emotion, right?
Yeah.
I may emotionally be like, dang, but I really like this. But I'm going to ask you the question like, well, what's the alternative? Like how do I still achieve that essential taste that it seems like I'm looking for, or the nutrients that I'm looking to get out of it, whether it's proteins or whatever. Like,
but can I say something right there? It's not the taste, brother. It's the addiction. It's you have to separate taste from addiction. Listen, my salad that I'm about to smash when I get off the phone with you, it's absolutely delicious, man. I love this salad. I chop up mangoes, apples. Go on. It's on the salad that I eat. The ingredients. That's the first video. It's still up on the Advice Show and on my channel, the Minister of Wellness. But I mean, it's delicious, man. But listen, it ain't no salad in the world that's going to give my brain the crack-like rush than if I go out there and get a sack of White Castles, something I used to be addicted to. It's not the taste, it's the addiction. It's it's the cycle, it's the dopamine rush. I mean, these foods are so addicting that people would rather eat than have sex. And the reason why I know that is because we wouldn't have a $1 trillion erectile dysfunction issue. There are millions and millions of men who are impotent because of their addiction to these foods or can't perform the way they want to sexually because of these foods. There's millions of women who can't who reproductive system is destroyed and dried up. I've health coached people who have suffered traumatic divorces because they cannot have children because their reproductive system is so jacked up from this junk food. So these foods are so addicting that people are choosing food over the pleasure of sex and the pleasure of having children.
Right. Yeah. I mean, wow.
It's not taste. It's just always keep that in mind. It's not the taste. You're looking for the dopamine hit. It's the hit. It's the drug-like feeling that you get when you sink your teeth into that candy bake. It's not the taste, brother. It's the if I remove the sugar, if I remove the oils, if I didn't fry it, if I remove the sodium, and you really had to eat it for what it is, which is a monstrosity from a diseased animal, you would spit it out of your mouth. You would throw it up.
Right. Now, I mean, so then what is it? Now I want to ask, well, dang, what do we really use pigs for? Like, I mean, what else are people really doing with pigs? And so, well, we did solve the question there about, okay, you say no pork at all, for one, but now that raises the question of, well, then, what other role is it that they play? Are they just, the garbage disposals of the animal kingdom? And then now let's move to cows now. What's your take on beef? Do you incorporate that into your diet? Do you not? How does that work for you?
Well, I mean, the cows are being raised in horrendous amount. They feed the cows pig. All the animals eat pig now. They take the pigs that die of disease because of how they raise them. They'll run them through wood grinders, the grinders that's supposed to chop up logs. They'll run the pigs through that and use that as food for your chickens and your cows. So that's what you guys are eating. You guys are eating grinded up diseased pig when you eat the flesh at these different restaurants. So I mean, of course, that's out of the question. So that's not even a question, man.
So that's like a living turducken. You're like you're eating a chicken who's fed ground pig it's like I'm thinking about it, like I'm visualizing it, and it's not funny, but it's funny. It's like, dang. So you can't. It's almost like you can't escape it when you look at it from that perspective. I do know some healthy farm, some healthy animal raisers that use different types of feed, but like not feeding pigs, but they'll use, I don't know, different like vegetable combinations and, pastes that they go ahead and like put in a food processor and they feed that to their animals. So I do know some local farmers like that. Obviously on a massive scale, things are done differently. But I do enjoy like local farmers, their eggs and different things like that. But, like you're hitting home. And I'm trying to learn and not cry on the mic. That's what I'm really trying to do. Because, you know what I mean? Like I got a little Native American in me, and I'm like feeling like, all right, I got to hold on to that and just get through this and be strong. like respect the land, respect the animals, what's going on. Don't shed a single tear. How do we change this? What, I mean, you're saying like meat completely off the table for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, because like I said, you got to go through the barrier of even how they raising the animals, and that right there eliminates 99.9% of it now. I mean, so first of all, I would have to get my own land, and then I have to buy my own animals from scratch and start raising them from scratch so I can micromanage and make sure that they're eating correctly. Now, why the heck am I going to go through all of that just to eat some flesh? Well, the answer is two things. One, either I'm brainwashed into believing that I need a little beef to get some protein, and that's a myth because that's a protein from animals is a hand-me-down protein because the cows and the chickens get the protein trapped in their flesh from eating grass. So protein originates from plants. There's no the food with the highest source of protein is plant foods. So that eliminates that myth. So then it would just be a matter of taste that I want a little flesh in my diet. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not about to go here and sit here and buy some land and buy and raise animals just so that I can slaughter them and have me the taste of meat. I just don't want to do that. I can sacrifice. I already know that greens, beans, nuts, and seeds not only give me a superior source of protein, give me all the protein I need, but that is far healthier because it's a much higher quality of protein, and that I don't have to micromanage how much plant protein I eat in fear that it'll raise hormones that cause cancer. Because that's still the point. They've already done these tests where they've gone into blue zones, and people who ate true organic animals, still the higher the rate of animal consumed, the higher the rate of cancer. They already did these tests in China back in the 70s, where they raised their animals from scratch, and still the more meat you eat, the more cancer you get because because we're not carnivores. We're not meat. If a human being doesn't have a need, a biological or a survival need to consume animal, you shouldn't eat it. If you're not going to die of starvation or something like that, if you're living in the times that we're living in, it makes no sense to consume animals, especially considering the fact that you're sacrificing giving your immune system a higher quality source of protein that can help fight against this cancer epidemic. Cancer ain't no joke, man. You don't want to mess around with cancer. We already behind the curve because how we grew up. You don't want to sit there and get a diagnosis. It's sad, brother, to get the amount of emails I get from people who, emailing me with advanced cancer, and I'm telling them, I'm like, listen, I'm a health coach. I'm not no cancer specialist. You can't, because that's the people who reach out to me. Most of the people who see the fried chicken video in their mind, they like, well, I ain't about to die yet, so I'm just gonna keep on eating. The only people who reach out to me are people who I had one lady that reached out to me saying that her 23-year-old daughter is 700 pounds. Her 19-year-old daughter is 400 pounds. These are the type of emails I get on a daily basis.
Man, yeah, that's wow.
We messed up, brother. We in a messed up condition. Just go to a black school. Go to a black school. See how sick them children are. See how fat and sick all the kids are. It's sad.
So, and again, I want to differentiate this because oftentimes we talk about, health or talk about food and then make the correlations to different weights. People believe that that's like fat shaming or whatever the case is. And now and medical doctors have been in the same. They're like, really, I'm not shaming you by letting you know that you're unhealthy and overweight. I'm trying to bring this to your attention so you can fix it, because being that far gone is not what we were meant to be, and that is unhealthy. So how do you differentiate that for people that say, well, you have something against fat people, or does that even come up? You know what I mean? Like hearing the stories of the 400 pounds, 700 pounds, like, and you're like, well, yeah, it's not right to be fat like that. Like, is that something that you've had to encounter and talk about? And I know I want Kel to hop in, but this is juicy, man.
Yeah, I'm not good at being politically correct.
Right. Okay.
So I really don't. If somebody, I don't have time for games. people, children are being slaughtered because of this diet, man. It's kids coming out of the womb with autoimmune disease and autism and heart disease. Mm-hmm. We're losing a whole generation. My sons grow up on a plant-rich diet, and as a result, they're smaller than all the kids in their classroom. So if somebody get their feelings hurt because I'm telling the truth, then I just don't. I don't have time for that. I just don't care. Because there's too many people out there. I'm here to spread the truth to those who want to change. For people who don't want to change and want to talk about fat shaming and all of that, that's just a food addiction talking. That's called the ego trap. They don't believe that they can get off the foods that are making them fat, so they want to try to justify their condition rather than change it. That's sad, man. It's sad the time we're living in where so many people feel hopeless in their condition that they have to create some made up name, some made up phrase that didn't even exist 20 years ago called fat shaming.
Right. Okay. Hey, you heard it right there. Before we wrap, Cal, you've been quiet. I know I've been hogging it because I don't want to let him go. I'll be honest.
No. We're gonna do this again. And we're going to stay on time. We'll be respectful of the time. We're going to let them get in that salad. The Minister of Wellness, I want you to come back, and I want to do this again because your content is going to continue to go viral. He's about to get on ribs next, Kool-Aid, candy. We have so much.
Cry.
Yeah. So I want to thank you, but because of the way the shows are set up, we're gonna run, and we're gonna, like a good storyteller and a good story. He's wanting us to. We want to hear more and more.
Right. Oh man, I want to say, I hate you and thank you for coming.
And I do real quick. Just want to let everybody know give out my website, the Minister of Wellness.com. I am a health coach. There you can find my services. I have books that I published on reversing diseases, DVDs. That's the Minister of Wellness. For those who are listening who may be on the East Coast, I know we talked about the pastor's diet. Well, Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia, the pastor, he wanted me to come out there, and he said he gonna sit down and listen to me get on the congregation Sunday morning. So whoever's out there Sunday, March 24th, I'll be speaking at Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia. I'll be delivering a health message for the Sunday morning service. And then here in St. Louis, my holistic health fair is May the 4th. My holistic health fair, May the 4th. And again, the ministerofwellness.com, just click upcoming events and you can find out the information on my holistic health seminar, Saturday, May 4th, 12 p.m., right here in St. Louis, Missouri. Tickets only $10 right now, $20 at the door.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And we look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a good place to stop our dialogue for this episode and allow you, the listeners, to join the conversation and keep the dialogue going with us online.
You can do so by visiting our social media at Facebook, Diversified Game Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter, Game Diversified, online, diversifiedgame.com. In your life with the people around you, and or join our Patreon and get some nice perks for being involved.
If you found a nugget and or liked today's episode, you might as well leave a review. And if you leave a review, you might as well share it. If you share it, you might as well subscribe. And as always, thanks for your support.
Thanks for getting in the game and listening to the Diversified Game Podcast with Kellen, Tyson, and AL. The #1 show pairing entrepreneurship with diverse and inclusive perspectives like wine and cheese, bagel and lox, fish and grits. Be sure to visit diversifiedgame.com for all the good stuff. Join in the conversation and discover more content.